Before we get to the award tonight, I just want to spend a few minutes, and hopefully you don't accuse me of going on and on and on to talk about an event that's been pretty profound in our community, which is the flood that's happened throughout April and early May in Bracebridge and throughout Muskoka. And I would say that, of course, anyone that's been watching the news knows that it's been happening with devastating results in many areas in Ontario and Eastern Ontario. And we're certainly thinking of all them too. But tonight I want to talk about our community, the amazing community that we have, and the amazing people within it. I think in 2013 we thought we'd seen it, get as bad as it could get, and that became, and pardon the pun, and I think we need a little bit of humor at this point, the high water mark for how high we thought the water could go. And sadly, we found out in 2019 that that wasn't the case. For some in town, it wasn't that big of an event. It was pretty high above the water. They didn't really see the water, and I actually had a couple of people not understand what all the fuss was about. For the people on the water, it was a nightmare that kept getting worse every day. And they were fighting for all that they had built their lives around. Over the next few minutes, I am undoubtedly going to miss a ton of people and groups, and I apologize for that in advance. If I were to mention everyone that I talked to or heard about over a 3-week span, it would take me 3 weeks to talk about them all. But I'll get to that a little bit more in my thoughts in a moment. I just want to talk about some of the groups and individuals that made such a difference over the course of this event. And I would start with the folks that I get the pleasure of working with every day at the town of Bracebridge. We have an amazing staff that fulfills their day-to-day roles with incredible talent and incredible passion for this town. But when an emergency like this happens, we break out the binders and say, okay, here's what your new role is, because we need to get through this. And I'm just so proud of all of them. They do their regular job so well, and they have the ability to flip this switch and not only carry out the emergency management duties with a great deal of skill, but also I think with a great deal of empathy for the people that they were dealing with. And some of the folks at the town of Bracebridge were also dealing with issues themselves. So to Jared Cayley, who's our emergency management coordinator at the town of Bracebridge, and to our senior management team and everyone within the town of Bracebridge that really picked up the ball and just did an amazing job with a very difficult situation. Thank you very much. I also want to remark, and I asked Chair Klink from the District of Muskoka to be here tonight. Chair Klink is an incredible advocate for Muskoka and the communities within Muskoka. And again, sir, your level of empathy for the citizens in this wonderful area that we get to call home is unmatched. I don't know how many calls I received from the chair asking how things were going and how the district could help. We certainly had folks from the district around our emergency management table every day, but John took the time to reach out personally, daily, sometimes multiple times a day, just to see how I was doing, what I needed, what we needed as a community, what the district could do. Ultimately, the district declared an emergency too, and made sure that all the available resources that they had to help fight this fight were at the table. And I can tell you that when it came to fighting the infrastructure fight, there was a ton of district infrastructure involved and a lot of town infrastructure involved, and the public doesn't care about that. They just wanted things to be better, and our two levels of government worked well together. The leadership of Chair Klink, and I want to thank you very much for that, and to all of the team of the district. To other municipalities that stepped up, a couple of days into it, we started hearing from our neighbors to the south, in Orillia and in Barrie, wanting to know how they could help, how they could pitch in, what resources they could bring to the table to make it easier for us. And by the time we got to that Saturday, many of you would have seen the City of Orillia trucks driving around the town of Bracebridge full of sandbags with their personnel who were volunteering their own personal time to come and help on the weekend. And again, that's a story that got told multiple times over in many ways. Agencies and folks from Hydro One and Lakeland that were, again, with their staff out helping people every day. We had so many people around our emergency management table every day, so we'd get together at 9 o'clock and talk about the current situation and what needed to be done. And of course, we had our fantastic fire department available, the police, ambulance, emergency management of Ontario, representatives from Lakeland, from the health unit. We just had a vast array of talent around the table that was able to give us information in real time and as quickly as possible so we could get that out to you. We were visited by the Premier, who showed up on the first day of the event and spent about half an hour with me talking about what was happening, what we needed, what the province could do, how could they play their role to the best of their abilities in this. And then we saw the Premier back again about 9 days later, committing to a process to review what's gone on, understand what's gone on, try and make it better for the future. And that process is ongoing. Folks like the ERTSAR team that showed up, which is emergency, I'm not even going to say what ERTSAR is, I can't remember. But they came, they offered, they came, especially in the Fraserburg area. They helped people get in and out of an area where they were stranded and otherwise didn't have the equipment to get in and out, and just, again, made people's lives better. And then, of course, after that first weekend when everyone had worn themselves a bit down to the nub, we made the decision to contact the Canadian Armed Forces, and they showed up with a number of reservists that really helped take the pressure off of so many in this community that had worked so hard by bringing in ultimately what ended up being close to 200 troops and a significant amount of equipment to assist this community in getting through what was a very difficult time. We thank them greatly and know that we'll be seeing them a little bit later in the summer with a ceremony to thank them more formally. And then, of course, the Prime Minister showed up as things were wrapping up and everyone needed a pat on the back. He was there to provide that, and we thank him for his message of kindness and, again, spending time with many people in our community, chatting with them about what they've been through, how they helped. And of course, the military is under the federal wing, and so we were able to thank him for having that resource available to us. So we depended on a lot of people. We depended on each other to get through it. We depended on sharing that goodness I talked about earlier within us all to help each other stay safe and protect what we have. And again, there are so many amazing stories to tell from this, and I think they will get told over time and as part of our history. I'm pretty sure there's a book in here somewhere, or at least a chapter in a book. I can tell you that as I went through my day-to-day routine and spoke and reached out to many people, and many people reached out to me, the stories were incredibly touching and heartwarming. I know a reporter that's here this evening who spent almost every day writing stories about what was going on. When she had free time, I found her up at the sandbagging yard at Fowler's, helping out. So she wasn't helping with the pen, she was helping with the shovel. A person that was forced to leave their home, the water had got to a point where it was pretty difficult to stay there. She did so, leaving her husband behind to fight the fight. And then she went and helped other people for days on end that required that help through one of our great partners in the Salvation Army. Mayors from other communities came and filled sandbags. Councillors from other communities came. Our own council was exemplary in this, and I thank every one of them for working with the public, for filling sandbags, for deploying sandbags. It truly was an all hands on deck effort. And then I'd be in my car driving around and the phone would ring in as some number from someplace I don't know. And it was just a person on the other end of the line saying, "Hey, I saw you on TV, how can I help? I want to come up tomorrow morning." "Where are you?" "I'm in Hamilton. And I want to come and fill sandbags and help your community." As a leader of the community, I am just blown away by that. I am blown away by the depth of kindness that exists within people to want to help their fellow man, their fellow woman. The business community in Bracebridge was unrelenting in their offers to help and assist. And we'll speak a little bit more about Fowler Construction in a moment, but that really became this kind of ground zero of staging and sandbagging that nobody was prepared for or expected, but they made it happen. And all those people up there needed to be fed and watered, and businesses kept coming forward with coffee and food and other offers. It was simply something to behold. So that's a sample of some of the stories that I heard over those couple of weeks and some of the things that I saw. But I wanted to feature a few people tonight that really touched me in very different ways. And again, I recognize this is a community effort, and at the risk of singling anybody out in what is a community effort, I think there are some stories, again, that need to be told and need to be recognized. So I'm going to ask each person to come up and patiently wait while I continue to ramble. It won't be too much longer, I promise. But just talk a little bit about them as I call them up. And the first person is Bill Cobb. The first thing I'd say to Bill is I hope you didn't have a pay-per-call cell phone plan, because we talked a lot together about a lot of things over a number of days. Bill is just, he owns a lot of machinery and he is a machine. He is down in the Maplewood area. That was one of the hardest hit areas as the lake levels were rising and the water was rushing past. And he's got a lot of neighbors down there. And Bill was just unbelievable. Your capacity to keep going and help and share the equipment you had and bring friends up and call people in. I don't know how many thousand sandbags you put out on your own, but it was just an incredible amount. And Bill is just, you and your friends and all that you brought to the table is responsible for saving a lot of people's properties, and I want to thank you. Ken and Dave Beach, the Beach brothers. Things got pretty hairy through that first week. By the Friday, it was raining, and only folks like the Beach Boys would be out in the rain on the end of a Friday afternoon before we had that critical mass of people sandbagging and saying, how can I help? And I love that phrase, how can I help? It's what our community is built on. So I happened to be in the Public Works office, and there was a lady that needed some sandbags at her home, and it was kind of before we had the whole thing too streamlined and figured out yet, and we needed somebody to help. So I grabbed the number, I drove up to Fowler's. There's these guys. Where do you want me to go? What do you need us to do? And immediately started taking those bags that they'd been filling. And there wasn't too many people filling at that point, and it was raining, and they were heavy, and they were wet. And then you were throwing them in the back of the trucks with some co-workers, and off you went. And I don't know how many times you did that or how many hours you put into it, but again, thank you so very much on behalf of all the people that you helped. I said I'd talk about Fowler a little bit more, but you can't talk about Fowler without talking about Matt. So Matt works for Fowler, and I'm pretty sure his day job isn't coordinating a few hundred volunteers that show up that want to fill sandbags, but that became his life for the better part of a couple of weeks there, I guess, maybe about 10 days. Matt, I don't know where you get your energy from, or your organizational skills, but I want to taste of both of them. You're simply fantastic. That Fowler could open up, but it's a private business and really turn it into, again, this volunteer, ground zero where everybody could come in, grab the bags, or organize and getting the bags filled. We're talking thousands and thousands of bags and the material for them. And it took somebody that was very skilled at keeping it all organized, and you were that person. And I think every night you were contacting me and saying, this is how many thousand bags you put out, this is how many we have in inventory, this is where we need to go tomorrow. And you simply did an outstanding job. And then, if that wasn't enough, he had a bit of a night off, I guess, on the Tuesday after the big busy weekend, and the Chamber of Commerce, of which he's a director, was having a business after hours event. So hey, why doesn't Matt invite everyone out, or he invites everyone out to fill sandbags with George Road? And I drive out and he's filling them themselves and taking the lead on that. So again, just an amazing, incredible performance, and thank you so much. I don't know what you like to do in your regular spare time. I assume it's not filling sandbags or convincing your friends to fill sandbags, but boy, you're really good at it. One Sunday morning, I think again that Sunday morning when things were reaching a fever pitch, I got an email, and it was from Carolyn and Hannah Fullerton. And it just said, I don't know if this idea would be helpful at all, but my 5-year-old suggested baking a bunch of fresh muffins and taking them over to those that are staying at the sportsplex. We didn't have that many people staying at the sportsplex. Most of the people that needed housing, we found accommodations for. And I wrote back and suggested that maybe a couple of other people like those that are filling sandbags could use those muffins. But the fact that we have people in this community that would make that offer, and a girl of that tender age would make that offer, you can see it's making me cry. It made me cry then. And I just want to thank Carolyn and Hannah for their incredible generosity of spirit and your cooking skills. And to say that, young lady, you're part of what makes Bracebridge great. And well done. Well done. And the other story that made me cry, because I'm a crier, was Erin Kerr. And Erin and her staff and students at Lodestar Montessori, you have such an amazing program there. I've had the pleasure of being there on a couple of occasions, and your kids are outstanding. Please come up. So we've got Erin this evening, and also Christine Fishman, Maverick Fishman, and Ruby from Lodestar Montessori. And so, again, what should a bunch of kids do on a Sunday when something's going on in the community? Well, why not fill sandbags at the school? Because they couldn't go up to Fowler and do it. It was a little bit chaotic there. So Erin had sand brought in, and they filled sandbags and then took them over so they could be deployed to help people. And again, it's just such an amazing lesson and start for young people in their lives to learn about volunteerism and helping other people. And I was just incredibly touched by that. I want to thank you. So, I guess now we'll get to the nut of the award. I thank the chair for giving me so much time this evening. I haven't even got to the award part of it yet. I've invited these folks here tonight as representatives of, as I said, hundreds of people in our community that were there for others when it mattered most. And I know that many who made a huge difference, again, can't be here or aren't here, but they need to be thanked. In fact, thank you seems to be such an incomplete sentiment when it comes to what people have done for one another in Bracebridge. I struggle with what else to say. The Mayor's Award is not one that's given each year. It's one that was started a number of years ago to recognize those that have gone above and beyond to make our community better for one thing or maybe many things that otherwise might not receive the thanks and recognition they deserve. Previous recipients have been the Anglin's Park Board, the Dads of Muskoka, Mike Jefford, Chris Howie, and all those that started the rink in Memorial Park. Tonight I'm taking a slightly different approach with the award. Bracebridge, I am inspired by you, all of you. You make me want to be the best mayor I can be, so I can match your commitment to each other and dedication to making your community a better place. We have shown the true kindness and greatness within our community and to each other. We have shown our best self, our most generous self, and our most kind self. To everyone that helped, a lot, a little, when they could, spared a thought, said a prayer, you are remarkable. For that, I am pleased to present this year's Mayor's Special Award of Excellence to all the citizens of Bracebridge for their response to the flood of 2019. God bless you all. You are simply an amazing community. So this plaque is one that's displayed at the town office, and it's in a trophy case out front, and it has the previous recipients of the award, and so we've got a little plaque on here for 2019. So anytime you're in the town office, come in and take a look at all the wonderful things in that trophy case, but look at that plaque in 2019 and thank yourself for that job well done.